teeming with parasites and hives. And though it's ever freeing, pattern in your breathing after those who mean it and do it to survive. Edge away my sweet machine, turn over and repeat to keep you here with me. Motor rumble under me and through me. It's as if you knew me. It's as if you knew me. And even though it's briefly, and though it's not completely, I can feel you reading me to sleep. And over the waters beating into me, I've left out a lot of things, hung like trophies, stolen in defeat. I watch you wait for me. I watch you wait for me. I watch you wait for me. Tell me you can swear I'll go peaceful. I'm back in about as you speak. Hands in the air, I am steady, no temper, cool on the floor of yours. Get gone. Say what you got and so. Say won't you stop and if you stay where you are, then I'll never fault you, 'cause static is blurred black and white. And you go to work while I try to find something nobody wants it. Nobody wants it for long. I'm the one that you thought was your ticket out of here.
I'm easy to forget. Just leave me behind. I'm only the fucking lead singer.
All right, Mike. Hello.
Hi, John.
Cool. That worked. Fantastic. Hello,
Here we
everyone
are.
in the chat here. Um, Real quick, just give us a little shout if the volume is terrible or if it's perfect. I think it sounds pretty good. Anyways, so this is the first episode, we'll say, of a series that inspired by you, Mike, called
Oh.
No Lead Singers Allowed.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
happy that that thing I pitched Dan Ozzie about 4 years ago that he told me I couldn't write about. Finally, something's come of that idea.
did you see when I tweeted our conversation? Jamie responded because she was mentioned in it too. She was like, "Oh no, did I ruin this idea?"
Oh yeah. I didn't see that, but I remember pitching Jamie about it. Yeah.
No, and I was like, no, you didn't ruin it. You correctly spoke to Jeff about his most influential and important album to date, and not the bass player about which Rickenbacker he used on which ska song. So, we'll call that we'll call that a win for everyone involved. But anyways,
Well, I figured it would have ended up being more of a conversation, like hopefully this is. So,
yes,
yeah.
hopefully this does become that. But yeah. Let me mute this real quick in case anything crazy happens. Um, yeah, but I think the idea of this though, which was nice, was that I feel like people like me and you and just other folks who are not singers of their band, we don't really get to explain how we feel about any of this stuff. We don't really get to share our experiences, and they are different. And I think this might be an interesting thing for us to dive in on and see. What does everyone else in the band think about? What are their feelings on stuff? How does being the person that stands next to the person feel? How does that feel like?
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we could just jump right into it.
Sure.
For it would be silly for me not to bring this right up because I've certainly wondered this, and it is topical. You just had a child. You
Oh
and Laura
yes.
just had a baby right at the
Yeah.
beginning of this whole mess. What the
Yeah.
hell was that like? How was that?
I
Must have been
mean,
amazing and terrifying on 100 levels.
I could talk about that whole thing for this whole time. I could talk for like hours about it because there was so many, and as everyone experienced, is going through this same thing all at the same time, but a nice extra layer of complete existential dread of bringing a person who I'm going to know and care about the most for the rest of my life into the world as all this is happening. So yeah, I mean, it was scary because as the days went on, obviously, as everyone experienced, things were getting worse, like like at an extreme rate. It was just getting worse and worse and worse. So Laura's due date was March 26th. No, it was March 29th, and we ended up having the baby. She ended up having the baby a week early. And so it was just like, every day that passed, as like more information came out, it was just like, this is getting worse, and hospitals are going to be scarier and scarier places to be in. Like, the sooner we have this baby, the better, and then we can get the baby home safely, and then we will never leave the house again. um, but it was, yeah, I mean, it was really, really scary. And I mean, it's already sort of like, we haven't had an in-person pediatrician visit. We've had FaceTime appointments with her doctor. Like literally, like we point our phone at the baby and being like, does she look right? Does the baby look okay? And like we weigh her on like our bathroom scale and like text the doctor, like the baby weighs 8.5 pounds now. Is that normal? It's just like, it's really, it's scary. And as more time goes on, it's like that. Obviously, there's not much you can say or do. It's like, as long as she's eating and growing, that's all they really want to make sure. But as time goes on and things get weirder, there's going to need to be actual in-person doctor visits. So I don't know. But in general, it was insane. But at the end of the day, she's awesome and super fun and adorable. And it's like definitely a positive thing to have in our lives right now. I mean, we're just like really happy she's here and safe and healthy. And yeah, it's just a nice thing to have something that's purely joyful and like, in our lives right now. So that's the good part of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about about you guys and just basically people that have had a child during this, that
Yeah.
it's like on the one end, it's like, well, this small thing that I'm in charge of it living, this just got a lot harder because of obvious reasons. But two, it's like I feel like you're so distracted by that you possibly are less apt to just be sitting on your couch like I do most days, being just like, when is this gonna end? Because I don't have,
Yeah, I
you know,
mean,
that like, so
it
there's
does.
not, you probably don't have any of that, which is nice.
I allow myself like 10 minutes at the end of the day to do that, where I like look at my phone and I get the updates of like, you know, our county, what the situation is in our county, what the situation is in our state, and I stopped even paying attention to anything that the federal government is going to tell us about this, because it's just not worth hearing. It's just not true, and it's not helping anyone to hear this shit. So but you know, I'll do like 10 minutes of a deep dive a day and be like, just to know what's going on and to be as vigilant as we need to be, just to protect her, basically, where it's like, we need to know whether we can go to the grocery store or not. No, still no. Okay, we won't go to the grocery store. So luckily we have friends in the area that have just really stepped up and gone and done like huge grocery store shops for us every couple weeks. So because she doesn't have an immune system yet, like literally, like if germs got in the house, she would get very sick, you know, because she doesn't have antibodies for anything, because she's 6 weeks old. So
Yeah,
like, if
Jesus.
you know, there's just like no, she doesn't have a system to deal with any sort of sickness, let alone like the worst virus that could be imagined. So we're just being very safe in general. Yeah.
Well, that's good. The
Yeah.
worst virus imaginable. Well, I mean, and also too, on the other end too, like as a parent, you know, it must be nice to just be like, at least she'll not remember any of this. Like the
I would hope,
stupidest,
man. I mean,
worst thing that's ever happened in our lifetime. It's like, not gonna have it. It's like, that's great. Way to go.
that's what we were thinking first too, where it's like, and also like, I'm every friend of mine who has like a toddler, like a 2 to 5 year old kid, I couldn't imagine having to deal with a kid that like is, you know, sentient, that is aware of their surroundings, and also like not in daycare, not in school, and that you just have to like take care of 24 hours a day, and is just running around everywhere. Like this baby can't do anything on her own. So yeah, she won't remember it. She isn't aware of it, you know, and like, but I mean, I hope, you know, I hear long form projections of like 2 years, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
and it's like,
Oh, yeah. I mean, maybe for us.
right, of being able to play music in front of people ever again. 2 years. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, who knows? No one has any idea. And like you said, there's no information coming from the top. And I
Yeah.
can't, I personally don't even look at it anymore. The only information I get
No.
on this now is what my parents tell me in this group chat they've
Mm.
made, which is also miserable because my father, I think, has just not stopped watching CNN since March 15th, just straight through, constantly texting me nonsense that's not helpful. And then
Yeah.
there's my aunt telling me I have to antibacterialize the neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I have enough
Which is funny because
information.
it's like
Yeah.
not a bacteria. It's not
No,
a
yeah.
bacteria, so antibacterial doesn't do anything. But everyone's like, you need the antibacterial, but that doesn't do anything because it's a virus. So
Yeah. So I have enough information just coming from my family, so I don't even need to look outwards. You know, someone will
right,
when people are like, "Oh yeah, we need someone to go put a lav mic on a doctor for some seminar." It's like, "Oh, then it's okay to go outside again because I can go do my job again." Or it's like,
right.
"You
Once you
can."
start getting asked to go back to work,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like, "Oh, you can go play bass in front of people now, in front of sweaty people that are drunk." It's like, "Oh, life's life's okay again." Real quick, I wanna just interject the conversation and just remind anyone that's looking on the Twitch, if you want to ask questions to us, you can, and we maybe will take them if they are not bad. So, this
Are
is
there
like
bad questions happening?
no, there's just people talking. There's just people
Okay.
talking, but in case people want to ask a question of some sort, they may. And as long as it's something that is interesting, that I feel is interesting, maybe I'll ask it to you. Yeah,
Cool.
so that's
Yeah,
that.
I'm not looking at the Twitch, so I
Oh,
guess you can be the filter for that stuff.
yeah, that's probably smart. That's probably smart. Okay. So, and now you go.
Me go?
Yes, please.
Oh, right. You asked me a question. All right, I'll ask you a question. Uh, I guess I just have like 5 questions, but I don't know what the best order to send them to you, to ask them of you would be. But I guess, was there, how has like the dynamic of you and Jeff changed both as like friends and bandmates and collaborators, say from like ASOB to Bomb to Jeff band, like how has like the ebb and flow and the evolution of your guys' relationship, because obviously you're sort of, you rely on each other for everything as far as your musical relationship goes, and I just am curious how that's evolved, and also like how long you think it took to sort of fall into the place that you guys are at now, which feels like a good locked groove, you know?
Yeah, I would say where where we sit now, I think is the healthiest our relationship has ever been. Um, but and it took a long time to get there, and I can't speak for him, but for me personally, like from the beginning, I mean it's different because at the beginning we were in a band, in ASOB we were in a band, and it was his band, but we were so young, and it didn't 100% feel like his band, like 80% felt like his band, because he would even back then we would get MIDI files with all the
Oh.
music, like
Mm.
MIDI drums, MIDI guitar, like cakewalk shit. Um,
Mm.
and we would learn our parts off of that, even back then in like 1998 or whatever it was, in like high school. So we would have that, but it still felt like it was a little more like Dave and JT's and Mike's and mine, a little more like not a shared endeavor, but like not completely what it is now. And then Bomb became a thing, and that was like still a band, but like way more his thing, because the first 3 records didn't even
Right.
have us on it; it was just him.
Uh,
And now it's the whole, it's his band with another band though. But I mean, when I think about it, it's like in ASOB, I was like, this is our band. This is like our band situation. In Bomb, I started to realize that it wasn't. I started to just trust him more. I think is what it came down to. Is that when I was a kid, I was like, I don't, because he had such uh, big idea, and not big in like we're going to be huge, big ideas, and like we're not going to charge money for shit, and as like an 18-year
right.
old, when you're
Right.
like playing music, you're like, but like isn't the idea to not have to work and just be you do the band thing? It's like you seem to be shooting yourselves in the foot here, and I know we're good, or I know you're writing good stuff. It's like it seems like
Yeah.
counterproductive of like getting to the end game here. So it was hard for me to like grasp that at the beginning, and I fought with him a lot on that stuff, and like I didn't trust his vision on it. And like I would go play with other bands too that I thought would get me to that situation. And then once Bomb like started like around the Get Warmer Scrambles era, like we came back, and I came back in the band kind of full time. And then I
Mm.
started to like slowly just give him more trust in that I believe in you. I don't understand a lot of the things you're saying or doing. I don't really understand why this is the way you want to do this, but it got to a point where I was just like, it got to a point where it's just like, if I'm gonna be in this band full time, I gotta just trust this person. I gotta
Yeah.
believe in him, and and when I say that, I gotta actually do it. I have to actually do the thing that I'm saying I'm doing. Like I have to agree with them, and I have to just and for a lack of a better, just better word, just like get in line. And in the Jeff band, I feel like we all are like on that page where it's like Jeff's in charge. We trust him 100% musically, creatively, whoever the band is gonna do. We trust him to speak for the band, obviously because it's him, and like we are 100% behind him. And I think that it took a long time, but I think it was just a lot of just trust to just give him especially for me, because too, it's like,
Right.
it's one thing for like Kevin and Dan to trust Jeff because they're new to this world. It was me,
Right.
I met Jeff when
Right.
I was 15, 16 years old, so it was hard to like, and then we've gone from being my best friend to now he's my best friend, but now he's also my boss. So that's another part of that's another like layer of the relationship too that I'm now also trying to like constantly, respect and pay attention to. It's like it's one thing like I'm gonna be here and I'm gonna be your friend and be a good friend, but like also as a bandmate, I'm also your employee in a way. So, and I know we don't look at it like
Right.
that when we're like playing, but like I need to personally look at it that way, like on my end, so I know that like I'm showing up prepared and I'm showing up trusting him and listening to him and doing what we're supposed to do because I want to stay in this
Right.
band. That was a big wake up call when that band started. It was like a lot of these people in this band are very very good at their instruments,
Uh,
and I do not think I am as good as them. So it's like I better I better be good here. I better like do the other side of this. Like I better show up prepared, and I better be a great bandmate because it's this got real. That band went from
yeah.
because that band like immediately went farther than Bomb went right away. Like the
Which
first
never happens. Which never happens when an artist does like a solo version of the band they were like famous or known for. When they do their
yeah.
solo record, it's never like exponentially more successful than the band that they were known for.
No, and
You
and
know.
we had basically
But
just done those Bomb shows and then went right
right.
into the Jeff band, and it was like right away we're already playing we're already playing Warsaw with AJJ on tours, and we're playing in front of more people than we've ever played before immediately, and we're still learning how to play with each other. Me and Kevin and Jeff, we
Right.
don't even know how to we don't even know how to play the songs together yet, like as a band, and we're just like
Right.
ah. So it was quick. So that whole situation was it went from like 0 to 100 very fast. So yeah, so it
Yeah, I
was
mean, I think the trust thing with like that you said, I mean, it required like a lot of trust on both of your ends. But I mean, the fact that you are so close and such good friends and such longtime friends, it's like I obviously can relate to that because like Laura's my, the you to Jeff is me to Laura, and like Laura and I have been together for 13 years, and it's like when you have that trust, you care about a person on a person and friendship level, and you like clearly have like love for them, then you obviously will trust that person, and you'll trust that that person will have your best interests, and you'll have their best interests and when you're making decisions that involve them.
hmm
Um,
well that
yeah,
was I mean
but
like
that's cool.
that was a thing with at the beginning which I think I didn't necessarily understand and I didn't really uh express well was that I thought when I would talk, when I would suggest things at like the beginning things, I thought I was doing the best thing for us. So
Mm.
we just disagree. We have disagreeing opinions on a lot of things.
Oh,
Shocking.
I've seen you guys just scream at each other. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've tried to chill out on that, and by we I mean me. Because like I said, it's like now you're talking to your boss. Like that's not
Uh,
how, like
uh,
you don't want to talk to people, and just also don't scream at people. But it
yeah.
wasn't like I thought my opinion was better than his because whatever. It was like this is the best for all of us because I want us all to succeed. And it
Right.
was hard to at some point to just let go of that and be like no, like if and it's different because I play in a bunch of bands and there's a bunch of bands I'm in. I don't give a fuck what happens to that band. They can do whatever they want,
Right.
and since I don't care about it, I'm just like yeah, sure, do whatever you want. But this, it's like I love this band and I love this person. So
Right. Right.
it was harder for me to let go of what I thought was right. Um,
Uh
but
huh.
once I did, I feel like it really made our relationship as friends better. It made our relationship as bandmates a million times better. And
Oh, that's awesome.
it just made the whole thing easier to do. Because, I mean,
Mm.
at this point, like, you have to make the touring as easy as possible because of the oldness and the bodies
Right.
and how much
Yeah.
it hurts. So it's like
Yeah.
you can't have another fucking
Right.
thing being stressful. So that yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
actually brings me to a good question for you, that you just kind of
Cool.
brought up, which I always think is interesting. I just maybe less of a question, just more of just like a speak on this. So in your band, the band you're with Laura's band, you are in Laura's band. You are her bass player.
Yes.
You are also her
Yes.
husband. You
Yes.
are also the tour manager of said band.
Yes.
So when band is on the road, you are the one in charge technically. But what I think is always interesting, and we have the same situation too with Christine and Jeff, is that so there's a band member who's the TM, who's in charge, who does not have a 100% veto, which Laura would or Jeff
Mhm.
would. So you know what I mean?
Oh,
It's just
right.
like
Sure.
so it's
Sure.
like I always think that's interesting where it's like, it's interesting that like you can be the TM, like so what is that like just I would just like to speak on that, just like being in a band where like you're in charge, it's you're the TM, you're in the band, you have you're doing the day-to-day stuff, but also you can at any point Laura can just be like, I don't want to do that, which obviously it's not as drastic as that, but like how do you work in that environment?
I mean, I think that most TM situations, ultimately, the boss is, like when I've been on tours with other, like when I've done dates with Craig Finn or Kevin Morby, there's been a tour manager who ultimately answers to the boss, who's Craig, or it's like, so it's also, I think, it's different from band to band how much control the artist wants over little details, or how they, some people would prefer to not know, like, just tell me where the hotel is and I'll be there, or like tell me what time we're leaving tomorrow and that's what time I'll get in the van. But there's some, it's different from artist to artist, where some people will want to make sure that the things that they'd rather happen. Other, at this point now, like Laura and I've been doing it together for, and in varying degrees of professional and DIY, like it's sort of on an ascending scale as far as like comfortability on tour and stuff. But at this point, and for the last maybe, I don't know, it's been a gradual thing where at this point it's just sort of like we know how working on that stuff with each other is, and there's very little, like, it's, I know what types of hotels work and I know, like, I know Laura wants to start like coffee in the morning before doing an 8-hour drive, so I'll build that into what time we're going to leave, and so like I know how much merch we'll need on tour, so I'll just order that and she won't have to even worry about thinking about it. So it's just a matter of like, and I think, like I said, from artist to artist, it's different to what level they want to know about stuff that the tour manager is responsible for. And some want to know none about it. They'll just be like, make sure there's merch, make sure we get to the places on time, make sure you settle for the right amount of money, so it's like,
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, you've been on tour with us where there had been, I remember there was, I mean, the Against Me tour we did, there was a few times where there were just like really bad drives because they were on a bus. So we were chasing a bus that whole tour. So there would be like 12-hour drives every other day. And so no one wants to not sleep, but also no one wants to be late to the shows. So you have to sort of like toe that line. And there are definitely a couple times where like Laura would want to leave earlier than I had, put in, say, like the day sheet for that drive time. And, that was in like 2014. That was 6 years ago. I can't believe that. But, at this point, it's sort of easy. It's like, actually, not sort of, it just is easy. Like we just have like a clear delineation of like splitting up of responsibilities. Like when Alex was touring full time with us, he would do merch, like I would settle, I would advance the show, like, so I think it's just, especially, and you could probably relate to it as well, just having that dynamic for a number of years in your band, where it's just like eventually you just hit a place where it just works through trial and error. Like you just find yourself in a place where it's like, okay, you're comfortable with this, I'm comfortable with this person's comfortable with this, as long as everybody's as happy and comfortable as they can be, both like logistically, like physically comfortable, and like I trust. Again, it's all about like you were saying before, like it's all trust. Like, we trust each other, that it's like, okay, if you say you definitely don't want to do that and it differs from what I think, like, cool. If you feel strongly, I don't feel strongly about it. So let's just do the way you want, and vice versa. Like, I think it's just a matter of not letting an ego, like a reason that doesn't matter to affect like the dynamic on tour. Like like not even specifically Laura, but any other person. Like if there's someone who's more high maintenance than others, and be like, oh, okay, well, let's just make sure we do things a certain way so that person isn't grumpy all day, because that's no fun for anyone. Like if someone's grumpy in a 15-passenger van, everyone's having a bad day. So,
oh yeah, sure. You're
yeah,
stuck in the tube.
it's just a matter of what's that?
You're stuck in the tube.
Oh yeah, totally. So it's just like making sure, having like a group, thinking for the group. I feel like, and making sure everyone's as happy and as comfortable as possible is the best way to operate in that situation.
So, and quick follow up there. Like I was saying before, where it's there are situations where I'm in like Jeff's band, obviously, where it's like I care so much, and like I actually, like where it's hard to just kind of just let it happen, just trust the process. But then there's other bands I'm in where I just don't give a fuck about any of it, where it's just like, yes, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Don't put your music on the internet. I don't care. Whatever. And so as a tour manager, and you've tour managed for other bands as well. Do you find it easier to tour manage Laura's band, where you are so heavily invested in the band and the human, or do you find it easier to tour manage a band where it's like, I don't give a fuck, this is when we got to get there, that's it, who cares, where it's like you can lay back a little bit more.
I mean, like I said, like with the Laura band, doing it for that band, because it's in such a locked groove of like, we know how it works, everyone trusts that it works, and it does work. So when I've tour managed other bands, there's been, for me, and it's something that I like impose on myself, is like, I got to make sure I don't just do things the way I'm used to, because like I said before, I try to have like a conversation with whoever I'm tour managing ahead of the tour and be like, I do this like this. Is that cool? Is that the way you want it done? Do you want to, some people want to book their own hotels. Like they like that the tour man, like that's one of the most time consuming things a tour manager does, is like book 30 days of hotels. But some people would rather know that they're going to get exactly the kind of room they want, that has a gym or definitely has a breakfast, or like there's people that want to control more aspects of their tour than I'm used to. And in that case, like I basically just want to establish whatever the dynamic is going to be before the tour, rather than be like on day 3 of a tour, be like, oh shit, I did a thing I thought you would have liked and you actually hated it. So I guess I have more, it's easier for me to tour manage the Laura band because I have done it for so long that I know how it's done. And I know that the way I'm going to do it is the way that it's done.
That's
rather
fair.
than if I tour manage for someone else, I've never done it before for them, so I don't know the way it's done for them. But
Sure.
there's never been any problem. It's always just been like, oh, okay, I do that I do it that way, but if you don't like it, we don't have to do it that way,
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I reckon that's probably similar to just like when I'm just playing in different bands, and like I get there like on day 2 and it's just like, oh, you don't do this way? Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I was actually that kind of leads me into another question I had for you, which is nice. What are like non-musical duties that you have within various projects, Jeff or otherwise? Tour and recording and scheduling rehearsals, all that stuff like takes sort of like a group effort, or at least like wrangling cats, So like, what are non-bass playing things that you do and have unexpectedly found out that you're good at and like doing? Like for me, I was never a math person, but like budgeting a tour and like figuring out what, before a tour happens, like having a rough estimate of what the tour is going to like gross, and like how much money we're going to be able to pay everybody. And like being able to do that well was never something I thought I'd ever be good at or like doing. But I mean, are there things like that you've just sort of as a byproduct of being like a touring musician that like you found out are things you have an aptitude for that you don't think you otherwise would have?
Um. Well. I'll start with a funny story and then I'll get into real stuff. When Bomb first started, like actually being a band that uh collected money, I was definitely in the mindset. I was like, I'm gonna be the one that deals with all the money in this band. So I can take that off of Jeff's hand, and I can be the one that like has the money every day and counts it and like does and like has the bank account and does all that stuff. And then I lost like
I
$12,000 in
know.
New Orleans.
Oh,
I dropped it
know.
on the
Oh, I
street
know.
one night. Yeah, I'm just saying this for the thing.
We
We
saw
were
you the next day. We
yeah,
saw you
yeah.
the next day after that
No, yeah,
in
yeah.
Houston.
No, I think it was
Yeah.
that day. I think it
Well,
was actually that day.
you'd left New Orleans that day to come. We played a show together in Houston, and then you realized on the way,
Yes.
oh fuck, I
Well, that was
lost
the thing.
money.
I dropped it. I dropped it getting into the van that morning because I was so banged up, and then I realized it
Right.
about like an hour and a half into the drive, and we were driving over the swamp, so there's no pull offs. You're just on those stupid bridges, so
Right,
you
right,
can't
right,
pull
right,
off. So
right.
I was like, I don't have the money. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't have the money. I know I don't have the money. Like, are you sure? I'm like, I know I don't have it. And we couldn't check because it was in the back of it was in the trailer or the back or wherever it was. We
Oh
just
my
couldn't check
god.
because we couldn't pull over. So it was another 30 minutes of me just sitting there like freaking out. And then we pulled over and we realized I didn't have it. And then I don't know what I did in a past lifetime to deserve this, but somehow they found it. We got all that money back. And I was useless. I just shut down.
Insane.
My brain turned off. My body shut down. I was unhealthy, so I didn't get to be in charge of the money anymore. So that was a here today, gone tomorrow kind of situation. I would have liked it. I like all that analytical stuff, but a thing I do in the Jeff band that I do enjoy doing that kind of just became that from my job to my other job, my big kid boring job, is I'm kind of in charge of like all the production situations a lot of the time. So like I'll make all the stage plots, I'll make all the tech writers, and I'll handle all that stuff. So when we're doing a tour, Christine will email me asking me for all this stuff, and I'll put together like this is the gear spec we need if we're doing a overseas tour, playing a festival, whatever like that. I'll speak to the venue sound people if it's gonna be a weird situation where we have to fit 10 pounds into a 2-pound bag kind of it's like we play a lot of small places still sometimes. So like the Jeff band has like 26 inputs and they'll be like, yeah, we got 4. We got 5. Can you work with 5? And I was like, well, maybe. So I have to call these people up and we have to figure it out. When we were doing the live recording, this was like a team effort, but like a lot of that stuff, like I helped rent or I found because I knew what we needed to get because we did that all ourselves. We didn't like hire a company to record that record. We, in typical like let's do this shit on our own because we know we'll do it right at least that way. We went and found the API preamps. We bought the interface. We bought all this shit off Amazon that I returned the next day. Just so just so we would have it and just so we could do it. But a lot of that like we researched like between me and our front of house Rick and Christine and Jeff, we all we kind of all pow out about that. But that's a thing that like I definitely find myself taking on in this band is like I do handle a lot of the stage technical stuff, the stage plots, the input lists, all that stuff, tech writers, which is fun. I like that. I'm way into that. I really like making them. I really like thinking about it. I like thinking about like how we can streamline the situation too, like how we can like just make it easier for everyone.
Things easier.
Because you're on stage. If you're doing a support tour, it's and you got to plug in 25 things. You got to do it as quick as possible. And so it's I like actually enjoy kind of thinking about it's like and I usually. Jeff and Mike kind of don't let me touch them, but like Dan lets me like play in his world. So like me and him, like I'll sit over, I'm like, well, what if we made this like pedal board with like all these DIs and we plugged everything in and like all you did was just like plop this thing down in front of you and you were just ready to go. And he's like, that could be cool because his shit takes the longest to set up because he's got 7 instruments or something. So,
Right,
I
right,
really,
right,
I
right,
like
right.
genuinely enjoy like thinking on that stuff and like figuring that out. And like, that's why a lot of my stuff is like just like I walk on stage and like I plug in a thing and it's like, all right, the bass and the keyboard and the bells are ready. Because I thought about it
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
I genuinely like
Right.
enjoy thinking about like this boring, but to me it's fun. Um, yeah. So I didn't really see that being part of my bass playing job at the beginning of
Well, and
this.
that sort of dovetailed you into like your live event production career, right? I mean, like,
Yeah,
and that's
more or
just
less.
stuff you learn from being a band person, right?
Oh yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, for sure. Like
yeah,
I don't have any formal training in that stuff. It was just kind of like, just playing on stage being like, "Well, how's that thing over there work?" Just kind of like walking over and looking
yeah,
at it like, "I could do this and I should do this because the
yeah,
band is not a band 12 months out of the year." So,
right.
and
Yeah, it was that's the same sort of thing with like how I ended up being, doing the buying and marketing for a venue. It's like that's just stuff I learned from being in a band for half my life. Like all
mhm.
the Latterman stuff was DIY the whole time we were a band. It was like me and Matty Joe booking all the tours ourselves. And, you know, it's just stuff you learn because no one's doing it for you. You have to do it,
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
and then you learn to do it well from like doing it poorly at first and learning from your mistakes and then getting better at it. And yeah, same for me. It's like all these skills I learned just from being a person that played in bands my whole life. I then transferred into a somewhat functioning adulthood.
Yeah, that's nice when this all kind of like works out. And it's
Yeah.
yeah, and like I've been saying, I've been pretty lucky during this whole dopey quarantine thing. That I obviously I'm not playing any shows, and I'm certainly not going to
Yeah.
work. But the only thing that's been keeping me afloat is like band stuff. Like we get like our record royalties and whatever stuff like that. And I mean, if you would have asked me when I was 20 years old, it's like the world ended and you're going to be getting money from one source. It's like it's probably not playing bass in a punk band, but thank God that's exist. If I didn't have that coming
Right.
in, I don't even I'd be outside.
Yeah.
I'd be working at Wallbaum's, man. I mean, I'd have to have a job during this, and it'd be very, very spooky and scary.
Yeah.
But luckily, I've
Yeah.
been able to just, kind of just wait for unemployment to never come until this week. So,
Yeah.
which was another fun nightmare.
We finally got our stimulus check yesterday, but
Yeah,
May 6th we
I got
got
mine
it.
on
It's like
Monday.
nice.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
I got my unemployment and my
Yep.
stimulus check on the same day, and
Ooh,
it was
making it rain on that
wow.
day.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah. Um, so someone asked a question, and I'm gonna ask a question inspired by it. Um,
Okay.
basically, it was how much creativity are you? Since we both play in bands where the songs are predetermined in a large way, how much creativity do you have in your parts? And to let me elaborate, I'm not really sure like how much like Laura does write. I know Laura can play a variety of instruments as she does in the band I'm in with her sometimes. And I know speaking to her about new music, I know she kind of hears all of it in a way.
Mm,
So one, how much of that is um, from Laura? How much of that is from you? And two, zeroing in more, when me and Jeff talk about like how we want to tackle the bass moving forward, we come to this this thought of space a lot. Get the bass allowing
mm.
space for everyone else. The
Oh
best
yeah.
kind of bass lines are ones that aren't doing much, but when they do anything, it's like so powerful. And we come to two
Right.
examples of that. One is old reggae records, and two is you. Um,
Oh
so
shit.
so we are always as a big fan of your playing, um, how much of that is you, and how much of that is predetermined from Laura, and then more so, how much can you push a song in a direction with your bass playing?
Well, that's amazing to hear you say. Thank you. But I've actually said to Jeff about that, and I don't know if I put the idea in his head about that because I said this to him, or if he was already thinking it and we were having a conversation, that exact conversation. But one of my favorite bass lines in any song is me and Julio down by the schoolyard, the Paul Simon song, because there's like 4 notes. It's like boo-doo-doop, boo-doop, boo-doo-doo-doop, boo-doop. There's like so much space created for the melody. Like it's very, very not busy. I don't really like busy in rock music. I don't like busy stuff. Like all the guitar shredder, rock god, like Joe Satriani, Stevie Ray Vaughan, like that stuff is not appealing to me. It just sounds like noise. Like it's just like just like being bombarded by notes. Like that's not impressive. Like I guess it's impressive, but it doesn't make me excited about the music. So I mean, I've always been super into, at least with rock music, like things that are not busy, especially with the bass. So yeah, that's awesome to know that that was observed. That like, you know, that with intention I do that, and that it was, you know, message received by someone who is one of the best players I've ever heard or seen play. So yeah, I mean, Laura has always said that she doesn't have an ear for low tones. Like she doesn't hear the bass part really until there's a recorded version of it, like whether it's demoed or like a practice recording. As far as like in a live setting or in rehearsal, I think because she's so like, melody is just like her, obviously is melody is like her shit. Like she's so like melodically inclined that I think that's where the focus is for her. And then when she hears a recorded version of the song that we're working on, she's able to hear the bass. And then we will go and she'll give notes more as time has gone on too, where I think she's thought of it more. Like I think maybe with those first few records, it was purely my bass playing was like purely me, and she was like cool with whatever. And then as time has gone on, I think she's gained more of like she's paid attention to it more, or has been, probably just because it's like her and I together all the time, and I'm the bass player and she is the one writing the song. So because we're together, the two of us, and she hears my parts before anyone else's parts, there's been more time to pay attention to them. But yeah, I mean, like the Big Freeze was largely, I mean, it was entirely her brainchild. Like she had all of those. She told me when she wanted, because there aren't many songs that I even play on. I think I play on like 4 or 5 songs on the Big Freeze. And so that record, pretty much everything on it you hear came out of her, and she plotted out. She wanted it that way. So with that, it was largely like we recorded my bass parts in our house. The producer Joe came up, brought his whole rig, moved it into the house, and we set my bass cab up in the hallway, and I sat in the living room on the couch. Just fun. I played Living Room New York in our living room. And so we recorded all my bass parts. It was very like quiet and cozy, and like, you know, it's just me reamped into the hallway, and it was just Joe and Laura were just like in a triangle, and Laura would say like if she liked something or didn't like something. Like I basically came to the songs knowing them structurally, and like I knew the notes and the chords that were appropriate to be playing. But we sort of went through it like from that base level of like, oh, I like when you rested a little bit more there, or maybe wait to go up to that pickup note like a hair shorter, you know, like it just. So with the Big Freeze, it was very much just like Laura painting the canvas with every piece. But the first three records was probably just like me playing bass, and Laura heard it for the first time on the record version. It was like, oh, that was what your bass part was. Cool. But so yeah, I mean, it's definitely like it's different from record to record, but definitely the newest stuff. There's even like there's newer stuff since the Big Freeze that we've worked on, and it was me, Sammy, and Laura arranging it again in that triangle. Like we all arranged structurally even too, it's definitely more of like a rock band approach for the newest stuff that doesn't exist yet. But yeah, so it's different from record to record, but definitely Laura, it was, and again, it's just like that trust thing too, where it's like she trusts that I'm a good bass player, and I trust that when she says, you know what, maybe don't do that high octave, maybe stay low there or whatever, I'll be like, I trust because it's your song that's the right thing to do, So it definitely is like a creative outlet. It's kind of the only musical creative outlet I currently have. I don't have any other like active projects I'm in, but it's definitely like hugely creatively satisfying to play bass on Laura's songs. Like they're obviously amazing, and they definitely lend themselves to me, being able to put like at least a little bit of, my personality or my playing style or my taste into them. So
Yeah, I mean, for
but I do love simple bass lines. Simple bass lines fucking rule. I love simple bass lines.
They're great. The Big Freeze, I could tell the first time I heard that, and I told Laura this. I was like, I feel like this is the first record that you made with that, and without any sort of what would be the word, sacrifices maybe, or just any other outside sources and influencing you. I feel like that was the besides our record, I feel like that was the first record I've heard from her in a while where it was like, this is exactly what I wanted to say. And that doesn't mean that I like it more or less than the other records with the band, because I felt like the other records were like, this is Laura and her band, and they are making music together. And being a part of it, as a member of that band throughout a few of those albums, not on the records, but just like playing with them, like I could see like where an idea would start, and then how everyone in the band would get it, and then where it would go, and that was cool. But I feel like it would change. I would see a change from like, Laura said this, so here's the song now. And then I felt like the Big Free was the first record in a while where I was just like, this is what this is my vision, and now you see my vision on the record.
Yeah.
I
totally.
thought that was cool.
And I mean, it was also just, that translates so well because the way the record was made, it was the first one that wasn't like, four of us recording basics together. Like, like it was just Laura made the record sort of in reverse order of what you would think is like traditionally the way you make a record, where she tracked voice and guitar alone together with Joe, who was engineering it, Joe Rogers. But so it was sort of reverse engineered. Like she went from like vocals and guitar and then built everything sort of backwards from it, which, I mean, definitely, like you said, it really shines through that was the intention, that was like, it is the most purely like Laura's expression, because it wasn't recorded with four other people all playing the basic tracking at the same time in a studio, all having an opinion, all being like, I think I should play it like this. And Laura being like, and having to make a decision about that right then and there, because you're in the studio, you're paying by the hour, you're like, okay, well, if you're the guitar player and you think the guitar would be better doing that, then do it that way. Even if maybe, like you said, the original idea Laura had would not have included that concession being made. Not that it's like she's sacrificing anything creatively by letting someone do something different, but it was definitely more of like a band dynamic vibe creatively for those like middle period 3 records or so. Like Sit, Resist, Wheel, Cocksure were like, it was definitely like a democratic conversation as far as arrangements and stuff. Whereas Big Freeze and, like you said, a record were definitely more like, here's Laura's song, and like she's going to add to the song as it exists in skeletal form the way she definitely wants it, which is awesome. I mean, the Big Freeze is like definitely her best record, and it's the most powerful record, and it goes back to that, like, there's so much space in it. It's so stark. There's so much like really warm pockets of just empty that really add to the vibe of the record. And it's less just like 4-piece rock band banging it out in the studio and here's your rock record, So, I mean, I like those records too. I'm proud of those records also, but I just feel like
great.
that
they're all good.
she really hit like, holy shit, like that's your songwriting record with the Big Freeze, you know?
Yeah, I when I heard it, I felt like that was the record she wanted to make for a minute, and it didn't get there.
Yeah,
And like you were
yeah,
saying with like when you're not making concessions, but you're kind of just like talking out things. Like Jeff does say a thing to me a lot. Um, he says like he's like I'm painting the picture here, man. Um,
right,
and
right,
that
right.
doesn't mean that like what I want to throw in the picture is bad or wrong or whatever. That's just not the picture he's painting. And I think
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm.
it's like things like that when I hear people I'm playing for say things like that, that reminds me um very much how I need to behave when I'm playing with people because the way I see myself, the way I ideally see myself in any musical endeavor now is like I just want to be the person you asked to be in your band because I'm going to show up and do the best job. Like I don't want to
Right,
be the
right, right.
person that shows up and be like, "Oh, I have no idea what to do this song. John's going to come in and fucking flash it up and make it sick." It's like, "No, like I want to come in and
Yeah,
play the song that you wrote exactly the way you want to play it." So like that like
totally,
when
totally.
when Jeff says things like that to me, it reminds me it's like like you're saying, it's like, maybe don't go up the upper octave. And then if I think to myself, it's like, well, I want to do that. It's like, who fucking cares? One, no one
Right, right,
cares.
right.
That was another thing too. That like, that like I it came to realize too. It's like, sure, like me and you, we hear the bass, we hear this stuff. It's like at the end of the day though, it's like that's not what makes these records mean something to most people, So
Right,
it's like
right,
don't
right.
make this a problem when this is at the end of the day not a big part of it. So it's it's like picking your battles and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
right, right.
But on the other end, it's just like it's remembering that like you know and for me, it's like I'm 99% playing something Jeff gave me, um, and I get to like if I if I can sneak it in, I can change it a little bit if he's not paying attention. Usually, it's better, but it's remembering. It's like you're playing this person's song, they are making this picture uh, that you agreed to internally that you were going to trust them, you know, implicitly till the ends of the earth, do what they say because you want to see the finished picture, and so it's
Right.
remembering. There's a constant reminder to me too. Is like the one the punk. It's like fuck you. You can't tell me what to play. And versus the like, of course you can say to do that, and of course I will listen because this is your vision and I want to see it. I want to see what you have
Right.
envisioned. And I think circle around, the Big Freeze being such a clear example of Laura, or just a clear representation of Laura's vision, is why that record's so great. Because I just, it's just when you hear it, I like you said, I just feel like there's no denying. It's like this is exactly what she wanted to do. And as a person who's been
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
studios and made records, and you're at the end of it, you're like, well, it's close. I guess
Yeah,
yeah, because
right.
that happens, But like when I
Yeah.
heard that was the first thing I told her was like, this sounds exactly like how you wanted to, and I don't even know what you wanted it to sound like. But when I hear this, this sounds
Right.
like the
It
record you
feels like
wanted to
that, right.
make. It felt like and that's why it
Yeah.
was. I think that's why it's so good.
Yeah. No, I agree. Definitely. And I mean, do you find that it took you a while for your experience of that, coming to that, like removing your own ego as a player, as a musician? Did it take you a while to do that? Or I mean, I think that's the kind of thing that like comes with age and experience too, where you're just like, well, for me, I also don't really like I said before, I don't like just like I'm just gonna play every note because I'm so good at my instrument. But like, is it something that you found it took you a bit um, to realize that that was what your strength was going to be? That like you were going to provide that as like that's what you were going to bring to the project, was like that was what your role was going to be.
It did take a minute for sure. Because I never realized that's what I did. Um,
Mm,
honestly, like I never really I didn't know what my strength was, and it took me years and years and years of playing with different people to figure out what I do best, and and eventually just I mean, I guess no one ever said like this is what you do best, but I just when I'm looking at like the collective work of John, chapters 1 to now, and I can look at it and like, well, I guess the thing I do best is I guess I play other people's music really well and I learn it real fast.
Yeah. You
So
definitely do those things. Yeah.
why don't you do that? Why don't you focus on that? And so that means preparing to a fault, perhaps, overly preparing, and that also means playing what's written and trusting the person writing the song. It's like when they say like, "Hey, do that," I do it, and then this kind of relates and it kind of doesn't, but it more or less like kind of like got me, like the final nail in the coffin of you're here to play this song. It's the supporting part, and like your ego doesn't matter. Like it's because that's not what
Yeah.
you're doing here. Was when we were recording We Cool, it was the first time I ever made a record, one on tape, and two where we all played at the same time. Um, and we did the first song. I don't know what it was. I forget what song we did. We did the first take of the first song, and then we came back in, and then Jack Shirley
I never remember recording, by the way. I just like erase my memory of making records, just goes away. As soon as the record comes out, it's like I don't have to remember that shit anymore.
I
But I don't know.
genuinely love the recording process. I really, really like it.
I
think it's
hate it.
because
I
I
fucking
think it's
hate it.
because I love it. Even though I'm getting I've been getting a little like in my head about it. The last record I made though, I felt pretty good about it. Um, but this also relates to the thing. It's so we finished playing the first take of the first song. We went in, and Jack was like, "All right, get a pen and a paper. Here's the tape machine. Write down when you made a mistake, and if we can, we'll punch it in later."
Uh,
Um, so he started playing it, and I stopped him. I was like, "Hey, Jack, can you stop?" And he's like, "What?" He's like, "Can you solo the bass? Because I can't tell if I'm making a
right.
mistake or anything." And he looked at me and he went, "If you can't tell when everyone's playing, why do you have to fix it?" And I was
Huh.
like, and the meme with the head exploding thing, I was like,
Yeah.
that changed my whole fucking life, man. It really did.
Right.
Like, and that just like brought everything that I was thinking about just like to like it made it all make sense. It was just like, oh, of course, like it brings the like this band isn't ever supposed to be a vessel for you to show off your bass playing ability. Like this is supposed to be a thing where you are all making a thing together, and when it all is happening, if it sounds good, that's good. That's where the good is. When you're
Yeah.
all playing together, that's
Right.
the good. It's not about, Mike does a solo, then Kevin does a solo, then John does a solo, everyone solos. Like, no one cares about that. It's about, is that this one thing, cohesive thing good? Is everything
Right.
that's happening making the next thing better? And just like,
Yeah.
and how do you do that as a player? Like, how do you make everything else happen better? And it took a while to just also, because I started playing guitar before I started playing bass, just to like also be like, well, what does the bass do? Because I don't know, like the first bands I listened to were heavy bass was like Primus, so it's like this is useless
Uh,
in my playing, completely useless. I mean, it's cool,
yeah.
but it's like this is not helpful with anything. So it took a
Yeah.
minute to be like, how do I want the bass to work in my life, in the bands I'm in? And it took me a minute to be like, well, like I just want to be the one that just makes this sound better. I don't want to be the one people are listening to. I
Right.
want to be the one being like, this
Right.
makes everyone else sound better. Which is what I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah.
is what
Totally.
you do so well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I think that's definitely the role, unless you're a band like Primus or you're
Yeah.
Jaco Pastorius. The role of bass player is to just sort of thicken up, flesh out, just add to the sound, not to be. There's a reason why there's that Kids in the Hall skit about how no one wants to hang out with the bass player. It's because your role is to just sort of be the thing that adds to the macro idea, not,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure. Another question back into recording. So, and about We Cool, I was thinking, and since we're just talking about records now, since a lot of this stuff is not is not a super collaborative. Since a lot of it comes from Laura and then it goes to a band, or in some cases it just comes from Laura and then it stays with Laura with you just kind of filling in the parts. Which record, and not even a Laura record, just like it can be any band. Which record personally do you feel you were the most proud of for you when you made it?
I don't know. I mean, the record I'm most proud to be a part of is definitely the Big Freeze, and I was the least part of it, as far as like all the records I've played on. But that goes back to the idea, right? Of like me and Julio down by the schoolyard. That guy didn't play much on that song, but it's a fucking good bass part.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
yeah.
it's the Big Freeze is a good record, but I didn't play much on it. So I'm definitely like proudest of being a part of that record. But yeah, I mean, I would say that, but it's also like, I don't know. I guess it's like, yeah, I would just say that one, I guess, I don't know, but it's like different for different stuff, different things. The second Latterman record, I was like a bigger part of creatively probably than the Laura records, just because my parts were my parts, and it was, yeah. So that no matter where we go, Latterman record, I was more active in running time from start to finish on the record. And I'm super proud of that record. And that seems to have had a big, like, long lasting impact for people. That I kind of don't understand how people still care about that record, but whatever, happy they do.
I meet people on tour overseas that tell me verbatim the only reason our country has a punk scene is because of Latterman, and
shit,
and like that blows my mind. One, because I know all of you, and two, I always think about it's like we were playing music at the same exact time and never played shows together because it was at a time where I don't think we had cars, so it didn't matter that you were only 20 miles away. You might as well have been in Australia because we couldn't get there. So it's just and I think if you think about it too, it's like if you thought about like if someone was like, who are like two of the biggest like punk situations to come out of Long Island, like you would pick Latterman and a Jeff Rosenstock joint, but they never played together because we couldn't get to each other, and we were so close.
I feel like Matty Joe's old band before Latterman played with ASOB. Like Matty Joe was in a ska band before, like when she was in like 9th grade or something. I forgot the name of it, but I think that they did shows with ASOB, like church shows.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like we all played at like Ground Zero, but just at like different times.
It's so funny.
It was never the same show. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
No, that place.
I mean, the fact that I didn't even like meet you guys or Laura until I was in my 20s is insane. Like the fact that we didn't meet each other when we were in high school is
I know.
Crazy.
So crazy. So crazy. We got some Ground Zero people talking about that in the chat. Very good. I love that.
Oh yeah. I mean, that was a horrible. I actually just talked about that. They interviewed me for the On the Might of Princes documentary, and the first time I saw On the Might of Princes was at Ground Zero, and what a fucking shithole place that was.
That venue prepared me for every bad venue I've played since. Like, because it wasn't the worst venue in the world, but it was bad.
Right.
And it was the one you played all the time. So it was like, all right, you're like playing house shows where like, they're cleaning up dog shit, but where the drums are got to go like 20 minutes before that. Like, you're like, it's not too different from when, Jimmy would vomit on the stage in his band and then you'd have to play on the vomit after that. So it's just a different thing coming out of a animal's body. So it's just like, I was like, all right, this is all I've seen this movie. I know how it works.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
Right. Totally. It was also the first experience I ever had like playing in bars. Like it was always like DIY shows as far as like the scene like Latterman circled in was mostly like house shows and church basements. it was never really in bars, but Ground Zero was like the only, not that any of us were old enough to buy alcohol, but it was like the only place that was a bar that we were playing shows in. I don't know how they did that. Like, how did they do all ages shows there? Just because it was during the day?
That's you never saw. Mary used to get arrested all the time. Like there were.
I had no idea.
I think she was constantly getting arrested because they were breaking the law because it was all ages, but they were still serving alcohol. Or maybe it was just. Maybe there were different laws back then. I'd been to a show where I saw her get taken out in handcuffs, and I know it's happened before. And I think it was because,
God.
I think it's just because there was underage people in there and there was drinking. So,
right.
But I mean,
right.
You think about it though, it's like how many shows that Dave's talking about in the chat, like that place sucked, but like how many amazing shows happened there, and they were constant. It was every fucking. You could play a show at Ground. There were summers where I played a show at Ground Zero 3-4 times a week.
That's crazy.
You just kept playing there. Like they just kept having shows that place. It was a wild venue. I mean, it was I mean, it had zero overhead, I'm sure. So I guess it could stay open under any circumstance. It would be open now probably.
Do you think they changed their name after 9/11? Did they still operate after 9/11?
No,
like with that name?
I don't even think they were there after 9/11. I don't think they were there before 9/11.
Well, I mean, I was going to shows there in 2000.
Oh, so maybe. Someone just wrote too soon, Mike, about 9/11. That's funny.
Reasonable question.
Yeah, it's fair. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I was just legitimately asking.
I honestly don't know if they changed their name. It seems like certainly more of a problem than the "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" wrestling intro that had to get changed. So I don't know. I mean, also I bet they didn't change their name because that place kind of had the vibe I felt like we don't give a fuck. This is
right. They're like,
we paid, Zero. You know why?
We paid to have this sign made 30 years ago. We're not changing it,
No, yeah, exactly. We're never fixed. We're never changing this shit. All right.
Do you have more questions? I think I have one or two more.
I have one more that I can give to you. So, and it's not about music at all. It's just I think it's interesting, and I think it's a good thing for everyone to talk about. So you personally got involved in politics this year with Mr. Bernie Sanders. What?
Oh yeah.
What? Like, and more than just like most of us just like I'm gonna tweet about Bernie. I hate Donald Trump. Like you were doing it. So what? Like what was the tipping point on that? And just talk about what your experience of that was.
I mean, tipping point being like, why was I more involved this year than
like did something happen to you this year where you're just like, oh fuck, I'm getting off my ass and I'm doing this? Or is it just like,
I mean, it was first and foremost just with Bernie specifically. I was just like huge into him in 2016. I donated to his campaign, which I'd never done anything like that before. I'd never given money to a political candidate or organization before. I gave him a lot of money this year. But yeah, I mean, I was always supportive of him as a specific candidate and what he represented. And just this 2020, even obviously before all like the COVID-19 stuff's happening, just the last 4 years and what has happened is just like, it feels like the only thing that could have saved us was someone, arguing and advocating for the things that Bernie Sanders was. And it's not even like, it's not even like deifying a specific person. His whole thing was that it's like, this is a labor movement. This is a movement of working class people rising up against this fucking shit. So it was just, it really did feel like the last gasp of us having a fucking shot of not having this planet be uninhabitable to humans in 11 years. So, because that's the timeline we're looking at, is literally 11 years. And so, it's just the fact that this pandemic happened at the exact moment where Bernie was getting railroaded by the Democratic Party, and I almost wonder if like the COVID-19 thing started earlier, if there would have been less of a effort on the Democratic Party to railroad him as much as they did. But yeah, I mean, it's like, especially now, it's so clear even now how his exact, like, we literally have to adopt policies on a temporary basis that were his platform in order to survive what's happening right now. Like, think about that. The federal government's like, shit, the only way that we can survive is if we give universal basic income, which is these $1,200 to $2,400 checks, and suspending rent, suspending mortgages. This is the only way we'll survive. And it's like, couldn't we have a country that operates with those policies not only when we need to bail out our fucking sinking ship? Like, can't we just live that way all the time? Imagine that.
Right?
We could just live that way all the time. There's a guy we could have voted for that would have done that. So anyway, that's why I got involved. And
did your daughter was that a pushing point as well?
Of course, I was going to say that as well. It's like, yeah, we're bringing a person who is going to live longer than us into the world, and like, you know, but it's like, I'm not even looking at it as like specifically how it affects my life. Like, personally, I'm white, I'm employed, I'm heterosexual male. Like, I'm not the person who Donald Trump is going to fucking destroy by remaining in power, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
and you live in New York.
It's not right. So it's like, I'm not necessarily even like fighting for my own neck, you know? It's just like the world, like, we are a community, like a global and national community. We need to be thinking that way, you know, because like, you know, there's literally not a policy in place for environmental protection with the current administration. There just isn't a plan. There isn't a plan to stop global warming. There isn't a plan to stop this shit from happening. They're just going to let it happen. So like, you know, that was sort of just like, that's the way it'll affect me, is that the planet will stop being able to be inhabited by humans. But as far as like the socioeconomic, just that, the socioeconomic and social justice implications, like, that's not my fight, but I happily like lend my support to that fight and help it, you know.
For sure.
It's also not Bernie's fight. Bernie's a millionaire. Bernie's like a 3-time New York Times best-selling author. He has 3 homes because he has 3 homes because he works in Washington, lives in Vermont, and he has a lake house. But like, he only has that because his last book sold like millions of copies. But, you know, so he's also he's not fighting for his own neck either. It's like, he knows that he can do good with his platform that he has. And so that's what he was fighting for. You know, it's like, he knows that the world is an unjust place. He didn't get his money the same way that a fucking oil company gets their money. He got his money because his message resonates with people and they bought his book. So
no,
you know,
that was my thing with Bernie from day one, was when you look at this, like, especially this last debauchery of a parade they had with the 20 different people. When you looked at all of these people, you saw, you know, 19 people that wanted to be the president of America, and then you saw one guy that wanted to help people, and the only way he could do it in his max capacity was to become the president of America. And that was always the difference I thought with him, was he didn't necessarily want to be the president. He just wants to help as many people. That's just the way you can. You know, where all these people, they compromise their beliefs because it's not presidential, they want to be the president. I don't think Bernie ever did that, and that's always why I liked him the most, was because he just didn't. And it's also, it wasn't like an ego situation for him,
right? And it's also like, you know, he changed party affiliations because he didn't want to run independent and split the left-leaning vote, you know, like Ralph Nader did, you know. So it's like, he did sort of compromise in order to make sure he had the least negative impact that he could have had. You know, like, if he could run independent in 2020 and he would fuck up that shit. Like, he would really, like, I mean, he might win. I don't know. He might win if he did that, but like,
he'd certainly,
I don't know.
What's his face certainly wouldn't win if that happened. That's a certain, like, that's 100% guarantee.
Yeah.
If he ran as an independent,
I mean, he's not going to win Biden's
Joe
not
is
gonna
not
win
going to
anyway.
win.
Biden's not going to win. He's not going to win anyway. But he definitely wouldn't win if Bernie ran.
Yeah.
But I think Bernie wouldn't do that because he does want to see Donald Trump stop being the president.
Once again,
but-
that's the best course for people, is for him not to run.
Right.
That's his thing.
And I think also, I mean, the reason why he suspended his campaign was because of COVID-19. I tweeted like the day that he suspended his campaign. I was like, so COVID-19 killed John Prine and Bernie Sanders' campaign on the same fucking day. Like, this is the worst shit I've ever seen. Like, it's like he literally didn't want people to put their lives at risk to go vote for him. That's why he suspended his campaign.
Oh, yeah,
because
I know.
States weren't stopping their primaries. States weren't like, we're going to do primaries later so people don't die to come vote here. Like Illinois, Wisconsin, they were still running their fucking primaries. And Bernie's like, listen, we're going to shut this down because I don't want people to crawl over broken glass to vote for me. Like, this is bad. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was already on a track to losing to Biden because he was getting railroaded by the party, but it is what it is. I don't know. I think people should still vote for him in the primary. People should still vote for Bernie. And then whatever the fuck happens in November, if we even have an election.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna, man. That's a big, like, Jeff, like, the sky is falling and above the sky that's also falling are knives that are on fire. That's like a big Jeff sentiment. And he said that, he's like, and I'm like, I'm like, the fuck, you're crazy. And now I'm like, maybe you're right. Uh-oh. But I mean, honestly, this shit's all this shit's a day at a time now. That's the only way I can, like, survive in this, is just like,
yeah,
what do I have to do today? What do I have to do tomorrow? I can't worry about November, because if I start worrying about November, I'm going to start worrying about when am I going to go back to work again, and I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. I mean, that's why I'm doing this. That's why I've become a cam girl. Or whatever, it's just like I'm just trying to figure out things to do in the meanwhile, because I have no idea when, like, my life is even going to kind of get back to normal, And for me, and for our lives to get back to normal, you have to put a bunch of people breathing on each other in a room where there's alcohol and no one's thinking, and sweat. So who knows?
Yep.
I'm just, I can't think about the fall right now, because then I'll just go then I'll just go crazy.
Yeah, Laura had to just cancel like European festival she was going to do. And we had, as you know, because I asked you if you'd be available to maybe do these shows, but we had these October shows booked.
Oh,
and I mean, I'm almost certain those won't happen. Like,
Yeah.
it just, because we know, like, we booked them, like, we had Laura's agent book them specifically so they would be sold out, like they're in rooms that are smaller than she would be playing at this point, just so we could definitely sell them out, and it would just be like easy 4 or 5 shows, go home, but thinking about like 400 people being in a room together like this, and like, it's like, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like thinking about, I don't like thinking about going to get the mail, dude. I'm like,
no,
I don't want to touch anything that the mailman touched. That's like fucking scary. It sucks.
No, I know. It's certainly a crazy time to be alive. Me and Haley were talking about it yesterday, where it's like, she was like, we've been inside for 50 something days now. And I was like, Jesus Christ, it's been that long. And it's like, I'm kind of getting used to it. Like, in a way, like, I'm starting to, like, at least get a groove, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I have, like, anxiety going to the fucking grocery store. And then there's the other shit too.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I've been drinking a little bit more, so I run out of alcohol. I'm not going to buy 400 bottles of beer every time I go to the store, but I drink more than I consume food, or have the requirement to go get more food. So my point is that I have to go to the beer store more than I would have to go out if I didn't drink. So now it's like, now am I going to die because I have to go get beer? Like, is this my life? Like, I'm going to risk getting sick because I want a fucking Bud Light Lime.
My parents broke quarantine to go to the fucking liquor store because their liquor store stopped delivering. I was like, guys, you can't do that. Like, please Don't do that. You've been so good. You need to go to the liquor store. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, no. But get it. I sent you a link. Get it delivered.
No, a lot of those places don't work for me because just a lot of those apps, like for some stupid reason, like the 3 mile circle I live in, nothing delivers here. Like a bunch of people are telling me
Did
to
you
get
try
Drizzly.
that link I sent you?
I did. A bunch of people are telling me to do
That's
Drizzly, and like the only thing I can find on Drizzly are hard seltzers, and I'm not fucking drinking any White Claws. They suck.
yeah. No
Um,
way.
but no, and it's also too. It's like on the other end of it too. It's like it's so much more money to get it delivered. So it's like now I'm spending all this money to buy beer. And I'm in a little different mindset now that I am actually getting unemployment and I'm not afraid that I'm going to have to go sell blood and organs on the street next month to pay my rent. Like now that I know I'm going to be
Yeah.
slightly okay, at least for a while, like I actually can be like, okay, we can order out food once in a while. We can get an extra case. We can get a bottle of wine for this week, because before it was like,
Yeah.
we will spend money on nothing. There's no more money coming
Yeah.
in. Like, and I didn't think I was going to get unemployment too, because both of my jobs are in jobs that usually do get unemployment. So, I was worried for a while. And
Right.
it was just like, I can't spend twice as much as I normally would on a case of beer when I, at the end of the day, don't need to buy this at all. But,
Yeah.
yeah, it is a funny feeling being like, well, now I'm risking my life to go get some more Brooklyn sour beers.
But
2020, baby.
Because it's like you need to disassociate from your fucking body and mind at the end of the day. Honestly, it's just like fucking put on terrible television, drink terrible beer, look at your stupid phone, and then pass out.
Yep. Speaking of television, where are you on the Bulls documentary?
Oh my, I'm up to date. I watch it every Sunday. It's like one of the things that I have to look forward to. It's like, fuck yeah.
I just
It's
started
like
late.
put out the garbage on Tuesday and watch the Bulls documentary on Sunday. Those are my big things.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, it's like I got to go outside to bring in the garbage can. No, I just started watching a documentary. I'm up to episode 4, I think. Or they just won the title the first time at the end of this one. So it was about
Okay.
what's his name? The coach. The last episode was
Phil
about
Jackson?
Dennis Rodman. This one was about Phil Jackson, and yeah, I just finished the Phil Jackson episode.
Oh, so you finished the fourth one. You just finished the fourth one. So you
Yeah,
were just 2 episodes behind. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
so good.
it's
so good.
unbelievable. It's just crazy to just like, just see, just Michael Jordan just talk about anything on it.
I know.
He was such like a.
I know.
I felt like he was just like a hidden figure. Like he was like, like a little bit like a Derek Jeter, where he just like doesn't really talk a lot. You didn't really get a lot out of him. But like but then it's like if Derek Jeter was also Babe Ruth,
Right.
yeah, and it's also just
He was such a protected. He's such a protected figure, like in the time that he was active, because the NBA realized like he is their brand. Like if Michael Jordan has to succeed and has to maintain the image we're projecting of Michael Jordan, or else like NBA is like loses so much value.
Mhm.
There's this conspiracy theory that the reason why he stepped away to go play baseball was like a PR framing of a suspension, that like they behind closed doors. This is, I don't know if I believe this or not. This is just a conspiracy theory I heard, but like behind closed doors, they had to suspend him because of his gambling, like sort of a Pete Rose situation, not necessarily him betting on his own games or anything, but that the commissioner of the NBA basically was like, listen, there has to be consequences. So we're going to suspend you, but you can say you're stepping away to pursue your dream of playing baseball, that your dad always wanted you to be a baseball player and you never got to do that. So you can frame it publicly that you wanted to go play baseball, but you can come back in 18 months.
That's
That like
crazy.
that was like, I know. And it's because the commissioner at the NBA was like, we can't suspend Michael Jordan because then people will be like, Michael Jordan's a degenerate gambler. Let's stop watching basketball.
Yeah.
So they
sure.
had to say like, you can go away on your terms, but this is a suspension, but you're welcome to come back in 18 months after that suspension is lifted. And when I heard that, it like blew my mind.
That
But
I mean, That's
I
not
don't
the
know if
craziest
that's
thing I've heard
necessarily
today.
But the newest 2 episodes get into the gambling stuff a little bit. Like, I don't know if you know about this, but like there were a couple games in that 92-93 finals where Jordan would literally like get on a plane after game 2, go to Atlantic City and gamble until he had to be there to game 3. Like he would just go, he would go to AC for like 18 hours, gamble, and show up having not slept and score like 60 points in game 3.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's wild how like inhuman he was in just so many ways.
Yeah.
Like, and then it's crazy too, where it's like you watch like this person who's just like clearly just on another level talent wise in every way, and he still can't win
Yeah.
until his team actually steps up and helps him a little bit. It's
Right,
it's why
right.
basketball's so nice, because you can't do it as one person. LeBron didn't do it in Cleveland.
Right.
Took him. He had to go to Miami,
Right.
get all that help. But it's truly a bright spot in my day. It's the first thing I do every morning as I put it on, just so I start the day off in a nice spot. I drink a cup of coffee
Ooh,
and
that's
I
nice.
watch the Bulls for 50 minutes, and then I start
Whenever
doing
there's-
whatever I do.
Whenever there's a like a clip package of just Jordan being incredible, like where it's just like highlight reel for like 5 minutes in the documentary, every time I start crying. I'm just like, this is such a this is such a beautiful thing to watch all in a row. Like it's just like watching someone just be just completely incredible at their craft and just being like rapid fire, like boom, 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 and it's so overwhelming. Just like I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, yeah, it's an emotional thing to see. It's just so amazing.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, that's why it's so captivating, because it's like you're watching the person that was the best at their job possibly ever talk about how good they were, and you just watch it happen. You watch the progression of it, and that's super interesting.
Yeah, totally.
All right. So, do you have any more questions? I feel like I could be done. Unless you have any more.
I could be done too, and my computer has 6% battery left, so I might need to be done.
All right, so we can call this done then. This was fun.
Do you have a way of wrapping things up? This is episode 1, right?
This is episode. Oh, I did. Do you have a pen and paper?
No. Quickly
go get one.
Okay. Okay, I'll be back.
While you're gone, I'll do
dead air, though.
I'm gonna. Well, I'm still here, Mike. I'm gonna do my Twitch thing.
Bye.
So, I forgot to tell him about this. This is supposed to be a secret. So thank you for everyone that's watching. We're gonna try and do this every week with someone new. I don't know who I'm gonna ask next week. Basically, I'm gonna look at this and see if it's any good, and if it is, then maybe I can convince someone to do the next week with me. It'll be someone similar to me or Mike, not the singer. Thank you for everyone who subscribed. That's super cool. Thank you for everyone who did anything else. Very helpful, very awesome. Tomorrow, 7:30, Foreign on Dave's podcast on Hardcore Justin's channel. And that's it for me for the week. So thank you for watching. We're not done just yet. All right, Mike. You can't hear me.
Hi.
So this is kind of how I wanted to finish every episode up. So who is your favorite non-lead singer in a band?
Oh my goodness. Jeez.
Don't think too hard on it. Who?
Tommy Stinson. Tommy Stinson from The Replacements.
Can you look at a picture of Tommy Stinson right now?
Yeah.
All right. So I think it would be fun to end every episode of this where we have to look at a picture of whoever you pick, and we have to draw them for 1 minute. All right.
I like the idea. It's cool.
So, are you so pick the one where he's got the pink base. You see that one? Google image search Tommy Stinson. It's like the fourth one.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna put a minute on the clock, and we both have a minute to draw Tommy Stinson. when I say go. All right.
Goodness gracious. Okay.
All right. So
I'm really bad at drawing.
so am I.
Really,
I'm
really bad at drawing.
terrible. All right. Here we go. Ready? Go.
Okay, yeah. This is fucking terrible.
His hair looks really good. If you guys want to play along at home, Google search Tommy Stinson. It's the 4th picture, I think. He's got a pink P base, and he's wearing like a red shirt that kind of looks like it would be like a runner on a Thanksgiving table.
John, my photo's so bad. It's
Mine's,
so bad.
I assure you, mine is worse. All right, I'm done. I'm done. And that's it. That's a minute. All right. So what do you got? Show me what you got.
Oh, I have to show you first?
Yeah, you have to show me what you got.
So bad.
And then you have to text me a picture. Oh, that fucking rocks, bro. All right, here's mine. All right. So
Good.
So yeah, so text me a picture of that. Now that'll be the
Okay.
thumbnail. That'll be
good.
the thumbnail for this episode because I'm gonna put these all on YouTube. Just like
Oh, cool.
bam, it's on YouTube.
Cool.
All
All right.
right, cool. So that's that. I have a song that I'll play. But yeah, cool. So thank you, Mike.
Thank
This
you,
was
John.
super fun. Thanks for having this
Yeah.
idea a long time ago. And thank you everyone for hanging out and watching. And hopefully this becomes a thing that we get to do more and more. And it's interesting. And everyone keeps watching. So thank you very much. Everyone have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. And yeah, that's that. All right.
Bye.
Peace.